They should return to their hideout to rest and prepare, as they move out tonight, which is good news for the girl. Under the cover of night, they quietly made their way into the bank's vault through one of the passages, where there could definitely be no guards. Once inside, the young man looks around and notices a man sleeping on a chair right in front of him. His role in this place is unknown, but you should be careful. I really should have been quieter and walked past this young man to the 5th floor as soon as possible. Why exactly on the 5th floor? Everything is very simple. There are very few guards on the 1st floor, and this proves that their value is hidden on the upper floors. To follow the analogy, the 4th floor should be where elite key gang members stay. And their leader lives on the 5th floor, where the supplies are stored. So, their goal is to get to the 5th floor, find the place where they store supplies, and blow it up. The girl listens intently, nods in understanding. I take off my shoes. They make their way up the stairs on their toes, passing the sleeping man who was guarding the territory. The journey was short, but difficult. They had to sneak through the shade so as not to accidentally catch the eye of one of the guards or gang members. And stay alive. In the event that they were detected, the young man would draw his weapon using an anesthetic, thereby knocking out the so-called witnesses. On the same 5th floor, one of the gang members reasoned that there was less and less stock, which was quite bad for the work of the tea. The assumption that they would be able to hold out for no more than a month crossed his mind more and more often. And at that very moment, you and your girlfriend were watching the man. The man kept worrying about whether they could capture the bear gang, and if they couldn't, they had to, or sooner or later they would starve to death. The problem was that they had explosives and grenades. So it won't be easy to take them, and they need to take food and evacuate from there, otherwise certain death. The second man said that it was better to be silent like that. It was very dangerous to talk about it. If he heard them, they would be in big trouble. One being peeked out from behind the wall, reasoning that there must be a tiger's room behind the boarded-up door. The men went the other way, and the young men, looking out from behind the wall, walked forward to the very door that was boarded up with beams. The sound of snoring like a bear came from the tiger's room, and the young men laughed softly. And they didn't pay attention to the next room, which was locked. Most likely this is the very warehouse they were looking for. She had heard them say that sooner or later the Tiger's Head gang and the Bear gang would clash in battle. Should they provoke them? But now it is difficult to explain. He will leave again in 7 days. And the Tiger's Head gang still has a month's supply of time. And he can't wait. The easiest way to actually get them to fight is to make it impossible for them to retreat. The girl nods in agreement again. However, the tiger probably holds the key to the warehouse. And they don't know that if they don't come out, if they make a mistake, it won't be a warehouse, then everything will be in vain. The girl pulls herself together and is told that there is no need to worry. To which the young man turns when he pulls a hairpin out of his hair. They say that he will figure it out right away. The girl's ability is incredible. She could open any door with this wire. So this castle wasn't an obstacle for her. Xiao was really awesome. On the very first floor, where the man was still humbly dozing, the walking dead began to enter in search of something to eat. From the noise and movement, he woke up and immediately screamed in fear, as there was a whole army of zombies in front of him. There was also a commotion on the second floor, and the workers and gang members began to run away, as they thought that the bear gang had already attacked them. Xiao and Wan Bing entered the vault. There was no light, so they had to use a flashlight to inspect the room. As expected, it turned out to be a warehouse. The next step was to plant the dynamite and get out of here as soon as possible before they were spotted. Pay attention to the girl. The young man does not understand. He is doing something in his arms with a bag of rice. She says she'll be sorry when it all explodes. But you shouldn't take it with you, as the bears are heavy. It will be more difficult for them to retreat. And the young man will not allow the girl to starve. Stories were heard from the side of the corridor that a group of zombies had broken into the building, and the young people immediately began to hurry. The girl guesses that the walking dead managed to get in the same way that they climbed earlier. It was logical to assume that the creatures had been disturbed, so they had come here. And the young people need to finish here quickly, get out as far away as possible before they get caught. Subordinates began to burst into the room and reported that zombies were in the territory. You need to clean up or at least protect your territory. And he, coming out of his room, beats up his subordinate, Nog, because she asked him not to disturb him earlier, when he sleeps somewhere, makes him angry. The man goes on to say that, of course, he remembers what the boss told him. However, they have a big problem: it's zombies that have broken into the territory. He flies fast, as he does not understand how they were able to infiltrate the territory, as they are well guarding it. At the same moment, the boss remembers his vault and discovers a pogrom and a pile of bottles of broken wine, and again starts screaming wildly. His eyes calm down a little, and his eyes fall on the explosives, which should have exploded in seconds. He did not have time to react in time and flee from the scene. The gang members fall under the blast wave of dynamite, cast back. The first conclusion that the Tiger head boss made was that it was the bear gang that had definitely planted the explosives to destroy all their stockpiles. Rumors about this we settled down quite quickly, and already all the members of the Tiger gang. And they believed that it was the bear gang that got into their warehouse and planted an explosive device. Everything turned out well for the young people, the plan worked perfectly. Now they were making their way through the air wire to the outside. Looking at the beautiful view in front of him, the young man thought that later they would unleash a war between the wild sands and the flying eagles. In the meantime, they successfully make their way to the exit in order to remain undetected and return to their hideout. The only thing left to do was to get down and out without bumping into any members of the Tiger Head gang of The Walking Dead. When the dead were heavy, they were breaking down all the doors and windows trying to come in and find their prey, so it was time to draw their weapons. The situation became tense with every second. There were more and more dead. Therefore, the young people had to defend themselves. But no matter how hard they tried, no matter how much they knocked off the creatures' heads, the dead seemed to multiply, and it became more difficult to increase in numbers. One of the members of the Tiger gang jumped around the corner and started shouting at Xiao, suspecting her of having caused the explosion. They are a bear gang. The girl began to look around, assessing her situation. Ahead of her is the Walking Dead, voicing the sides of the other gang members preparing to attack her. And everyone wants only one thing: to bring the end of her life, when the dead and the girl copes, sending several with a clear kick to the floor. But it is not possible to dodge one, and the girl is already preparing to be wounded, to be infected, but the young man rises in time, defending the front. The head of the Walking Dead man is clear, quickly, without any noise, flies off in the direction of the calving, falls like a rag doll to the floor. Against zombies, it is best to use melee weapons, as they are a more reliable defense unlike firearms. So the girl pulls out her dagger, preparing to defend herself. And in her eyes there is a spark of gratitude for the fact that the young man arrived in time to save her from death. In his life, the young man has killed people and zombies many times in games, but in real life, he faces such a situation for the first time, so he is a little confused. Still, they need to come back alive. So now they will become comrades in arms, fighting shoulder to shoulder and protecting each other. Together, they rushed straight at the zombies in order to defeat each and every one and get out of this place alive. They find themselves in the house a few hours later, tired, exhausted and a little battered after a heated duel with the Walking Dead. Still, they were lucky that there weren't that many zombies, otherwise they would have died right there and their whole mission would have been useless. The mission took quite a long time, took even more energy. So now I had to replenish my supplies immediately with food and a good night's sleep. The young man pulled out a packet of chips. It is said that in honor of the successful completion of the plan, the girls can eat to their heart's content. If angels exist, then you are a real incarnation, since he brought a lot of delicious sweets and other snacks for the girl. As in the past, the girl began to swoop down on the food like a hamster, stuffing everything into its cheeks. And why did they become even more plump? We have known each other for a long time, but we still managed to get to know each other very well. However, the young man is still shocked by this girl's appetite. Looking up from her goodies, the girl notices a can of beer in the young man's hands. I wonder if she can also take one sip. Well, for such a little girl, Xiao, the young man brought a lot of juice and carbonated drinks, but he won't give her beer. The girl, of course, resents being called small, but in fact she is big and she has everything except her age. The young man did not succumb to requests and persuasion, only said that the girls should eat their own goodies and not taste all sorts of nasty things. Do you know how young children are forbidden to do something and immediately awaken a frenzied interest in it? That's how the girl was going to the can of beer when the young man left. While the young men were fighting the zombie army and the game system sent Vin some kind of clue. So now he wanted to study it in detail, pulling out his phone and the light shells of the system, which said in a mechanical voice that the hint should be studied as accurately as possible. Of course, the young man considered it necessary to heed this advice, since in the future it could save his life and the whole situation as a whole. The system uploads the data to Wang Bing's personal attribute panel, while he humbly waits for his clue. This panel is necessary for the young man to be aware of various numerical indicators that affect him directly. And he knows, but thinks the system is wrong because he trains every day at school. So it's not clear why all the other attributes are below the norm, except for dexterity. However, this is not such a critical situation to worry about, as the values of the norm here are normal for a post-apocalyptic world. Due to the advent of the post-apocalypse, those who have survived to this point are much more physically healthy than in the real world. And although the young man was worried about his stats, she was worried that she just needed to use the gold to upgrade the system so that he could increase them. And the second update of the system activates in the secondary system with prizes such as some weapons, attribute upgrades and various skills to be useful in the future. The young man has become a Tomsk resemblance to the computer version of the game and it runs on a board. So he was interested in the question of how much exactly one upgrade costs. 20 was more difficult since 1,000 kg of gold was needed for renewal, which was equal to 400,000 million, which seemed quite a lot to the young man. The system offers everything, says in its mechanical voice that the player should not despair, because the deal is worth every cent spent. If he chooses the skill book lottery system, it will be able to learn the appropriate tax and increase his chances of survival. It is also worth considering that skills are increased, killing zombies will make the young man even stronger, and most importantly, he will be able to use them in the real world. And this was quite interesting, as such skills and attributes can become very useful in the real world. So upgrading your system is definitely worth it. It is worth thinking about the real world. Doesn't the young man want to become stronger, to invest money? It's also worth considering whether there will be any side effects as it gets stronger. For example, baldness, or something like that. Remove the system, what will be understood? So the young man smiles contentedly, saying that if necessary, he will call the system again. Based on all this, gold mining has now become his main goal, and the next outing will need to get as much of it as possible. As he leaves the room, he doesn't notice the girl, who is already snoozing nicely on the couch, emptying a can of the remaining beer. To say that the young man was surprised would be an understatement, as he really didn't think the girl was blaming and knock out half a can of low-alcohol. But as he gets closer, he realizes that the girl didn't stop at half of the jar he had left, but pulled out almost everything in his backpack. He carefully lifts the girl off the couch. He carried her into the room, although he did not expect her to be so heavy, as she looks so thin. Involuntarily, I began to look at her, running my eyes down her body, which caused a nervous drop of sweat to roll down her cheekbones. In fact, the girl had a beautiful body, a cute face with chubby cheeks and beautiful breasts, slim waist and lovely hips. Her face is like an angel kissed, every eyelash is kissed, every ruddy spot, her nose. It was all beautiful, especially her plump lips were alluring. The body was just as beautiful. In addition, she treats the young man very well compared to his ex, and he thinks, you don't know what. Shaking his head and banishing the vile thoughts, he pinched his cheeks, for he did not want to be some kind of pervert. It is very dangerous to be here. Therefore, you need to go to the shower to cool down, otherwise it may not end well. Should the door to the girl's room slam shut, somehow nothing happened. She got out of bed, upset that the young man had left just like that. She began to growl into the pillow, as if it were for a young man. She's just a little sister and he doesn't see her in any other more serious way. And now she begins to drive away those who came in voice, if they wrapped themselves in a blanket like a protective cocoon. Because she said it, the voice, and she's also very angry. Another day begins and the young people set out on the next mission in full combat readiness. Epic outfits, a business gate, eyeglasses, and powerful weapons were all theirs. So the success of the mission is assured. Calmly and busily, they were approaching their destination, when suddenly the girl stopped the young man, saying that he had to wait. The girl's sense of smell is truly unimaginable, as she sensed that somewhere a few kilometers away from their location, someone was eating. Appetizing meat. The young man chuckles, as the girl thinks about food even during the mission, but notices that it really smells very delicious. Wagging her tail, the girl moved forward at the smell of meat. But the trouble is that it could have been a trap and you had to be more careful. The girl didn't listen, she ran forward. At the same time, at the smell of meat, the gang members ran away, preparing their weapons. There was no goal to attack the young people, and the target was also food. They wanted to take this meat, which will warm their souls today. Xiao and Wan Bing's gang were watching from the rooftop. Caution was still a priority for them, so they decided to take their time. The view from above wasn't good enough, but the young men could still see the tiger's head and the gang members present. The green-haired man's name was Chan, and he was the leader of a small subgroup in the Tiger Head gang. However, he knew that they were short of food and came to the shark gang. Information that this man is a former member of a wild shark gang. And she could play into our hands very well in the mission. Behind them, screams are heard, and they are told to stand still. Drop all available weapons, otherwise each of them will get a bullet in the back of the head. The order came from the young men. So it could be assumed that they were members of other gangs. In the woman's voice, Chan recognizes an acquaintance. It turns out to be the policewoman Niao Tam, wondering why they are here. The man begins to explain what they have learned about the betting company. It had been a long time since she had eaten fresh meat. So I thought I should bring the guys here. When people watched from the roof, the girl filmed that the girl's name was Miao Yun, and she was an officer before the arrival of the post-apocalypse. After the apocalypse, she began to use this house as a base. And her team has an old cop who is her senior. In addition to these two, there were several other children, women, and all of them had no fighting ability. It was logical to leave from there, but there were also wounded among them. A girl protects everyone if she cares. So we can conclude that she is indeed a very loyal person. Chan wanted to help in part, most of all he wants to defeat a gang of wild sharks. So helping these people is a nice bonus. The girl continues to inquire from her hideout. After all, they have so many people in the shark gang. And why don't they go hunting to find their prey? Not everyone is so lucky, as the girls are her ally. The men have gone out and returned empty-handed several times, so you will have to disturb other people a little. And a man does not ask for, only have to provide for himself and his comrades and not to die of hunger. In the darkness of the room, another man watched with the girl outside and claimed that the best option for them would be to agree. But the girl knew these people well enough to know what they were capable of. If they give up the slack and give in once, then they will come again. But next time, there will be some boundaries. The man began to shout that he had shot the wild boar, and the sharks should not even try, they should not take it away, so nothing will work. The man was not going to give up so quickly. He kept saying that he knew that the policewoman had a gun because of the gun. And there are a lot of them here, so a bullet won't suffice. At the same moment, a bullet flies through the boarded-up beam from the dark room, shot through the shoulder of one of the gang members. The girl comes out of her hiding place with a weapon in her hands. They say that if a man wants to attack so much, then let them attack. She rearranges everyone to the last one. They do not tolerate delay. They began to advance. Since the girl acted disrespectfully, attacked one of them. The shooter has also now fled the scene, so it was necessary to knock on the door as soon as possible to catch him and avenge his wounded comrade. She realized that they were really running low on ammo and could lose if they continued firing at this pace. The others must be coming up the corridor by now, and the girl should stay here. In the meantime, the man went downstairs to kill them. From the roof of a nearby building, young people are still watching, deciding that they need to go down and help right away. Wan Bing gave the command to prepare for action. The girl drew her rifle and aimed at their shooter. With a direct hit, it pierces his head at speed, causing him to let go of his weapon and fall to the ground. The leader of the gang turns around, looking in shock, as he could not imagine that there were snipers here. How was this even possible? The girl who had been hiding in her hiding place came out. It was a great chance to attack, so she aimed her gun at the man. A bullet hits a counting gang member and also shaved in the shoulder, forcing him to collapse exhausted. Then he shouts for the men not to stand there and quickly grab the girl and shoot her so that she stops killing them. Then another member of the group has already aimed her gun at a police girl, but a bullet flies into his arm. from which the gun flies to the side. I aimed at the shoulder, or better yet, at the head. But she missed a little, so the bullet hit her in the arm, but it's also better than nothing. Realizing that there is another sniper somewhere here, the man commands his gang to hide in order to stay alive. The policewoman was still watching from her hideout. I was shaking my weapon at the ready. Did anyone really decide to help at such a moment? He doesn't understand in shock what a completely brainless person dared to go against them, against wild sharks. The girl took advantage of the fact that the men ran away and began to go down the stairs to help her eldest. There was a battle. In one of the cash spans she saw him, wondering how things were going. To which he gave the go-ahead that the two managed to get in and he killed them. Down the stairs there were indeed two bodies that were already dead, bleeding profusely. And the man kept wondering why the girl had come downstairs. It has been reported that the opponents do indeed have more firepower than they do. But it seems that someone has already decided to help them. The arrows of the wild shark suddenly spotted and must have taken them all out, and Sean noticed this, so he paid the compensation. The gang members are standing there, catching their breath, trying to figure out what to do next. They have lost several people from their team. Didn't he say that there were few of them there and that they would be able to break through? The boss comes out from behind the wall, saying that it was his information that was unreliable. And it's his fault that this happened. He comes out from behind the wall for good to talk to the Meow officer. The girl is shocked, wondering if Lin really wanted to talk that very suddenly. But so be it, she'll listen to what he wants. The only request is for the girl to persuade her friend to let them go, to forget about what just happened, and they promise that she will not bother them again. In fact, young people do not even know who this shooter who shot half of the shark gang is, and what to do is also do not understand. However, the leader of the gang does not necessarily know that this person is not on their team. He needs to hold his stance to the end. She yells to the unknown shooter at the wild sharks have sworn in so far or their actions. So sit down and leave the necessary miserable life alone. Xiao turns to Wang Bing, wondering what they are going to do now, but all he has to do is wait and shoots when the young man gives the command. And then the young man shouts back that of course they will let them go, this time they are so good so far or in their actions. Wild sharks come out of their hiding place for cover, says this man seems to genuinely want to help the young people. As the gang members emerge from their hiding place with the idea that more people will come to kill, Wang gives the order to shoot, but only one of the gang members is hit by a bullet. And others, who don't understand, look because they have decided that they have already been spared and allowed to leave. The female officer also doesn't understand why the unknown sniper starts attacking anyway. Is this how he provokes them? One of the gang members covers the boss, saying that it's all because of him. But he does not want to admit his guilt at all. The boss himself believes that if anyone should be blamed, it's the guy in the shadows, who did not keep his word and continues to shoot them in turn. The girl clucks under her breath because the boys have run too far and she can't shoot. Nevertheless, it worked perfectly. Although the rifle is not as good for her as previously assumed, Wang already turns around, telling the girl to wait for him here. But wasn't he going to talk to these people alone? An Officer Meow can be very cruel. She is in no hurry to leave the shelter, but the young man does not dare to hurt himself. Moreover, they will put the girl at risk. Former officers are watching the territory of their hideout, trying to see the shooter who will help so much. Holding a packet of chips in his hands, the young man comes out, raising his hands as a sign that he is ready to stand and there is no point in attacking him. There really was nothing wrong with his intentions. And all he wanted to do was talk calmly and discuss the situations that had happened earlier. Well, where I was interested in who he was and what he was going to talk about with them, or if I went to talk about food, they would naturally refuse. All the young man wanted was to work in a team. In addition, there was too much food for him and he could even share it with the guys as a gift for the first meeting. When I heard that someone wanted to share food with them, the officers perked up, because they really needed food, but they didn't want to admit it. So the young man suggested another option, maybe create from the gangs and give them both a stable existence, also doesn't want to waste time and talk right now. The word that the young man can get rid of all 4 gangs is too dubious, and the officer should be very careful because it is dangerous to take his word for it. You'll have to see what the young man was up to, but it was interesting. So he was allowed to go in, but not to do anything stupid, otherwise he wouldn't be left alive. I continue to assure you that there is nothing to worry about." And the young man walked forward. He only wanted to cooperate and help these people. As soon as he crossed the threshold of the so-called shelter, a pistol was pointed out of the smoke, forcing him to stop. The officer ordered the girl to stand still and put everything he had with him on the floor for checking. While the girl continued to hold him at gunpoint, the man began to check the young man's backpack for piercing and explosive weapons. The zipper of the backpack opened and a beautiful picture stood in front of the man. The backpack was stuffed to the brim with food, which made his eyes sparkle with happiness. The young man could really give it all to the young people. But the only thing he asked for was cooperation in normal relations. We could talk quietly when we went up to the second floor. And the officers accepted all the conditions for cooperation and were ready to work. But safety was paramount, so the officers still had the young man at gunpoint. But it was necessary to be careful not to accidentally pull the trigger, otherwise there would be no cooperation. Looking back at the young man, the male officer was interested in the outlet shooter who had so selflessly helped them get rid of the gang members. He was greeted by those present in the shelter, and he saw many women and children who were hiding there. And the children looked pale and looked at the young man with a kind of fright. And it was clear that they saw strangers very rarely. Like the children, the rest of the audience was wary of the guest, as in their world it was not surprising. Because you never know from which side the danger will fall on you. Odessa, in such an environment, it was very uncomfortable. You didn't know how to behave, and what to say was just a nice smile and shake your head. The officer explained that everyone had not survived the trouble before she took them in. Therefore, everyone is very careful, but the young man understands everything. Looking at the weapon to the girl who has already hidden it, the guy suggests that the girl still trusts him and you don't have to worry about your carcass. She asks what your purpose is for the young man's visit and why he began to help them, risking his life and ammunition. The young man wanted to cooperate. He wanted to deal with knowledgeable people, to have loyal allies in order to repel a gang of wild sharks. But it sounded like the ravings of a madman, and since there are so many fighters in this gang and all unarmed, to go after them in such a group is suicide. The male officer also shakes his head, musing that the guy doesn't seem to know how dangerous, cruel these people are about to fight. A little boy jumped up from the table to address the young man, as he had astonished him with his words about defeating a gang of wild sharks. He kept looking, the young man in front of you, his eyes sparkling, as if he had seen his favorite superhero, whose name the young man never was. Wan Bing stood there chuckling as he didn't understand what this boy was talking about. And even more so, I couldn't guess what this moment was thinking about here. And I can't read it crazy, but it's worth thinking about now. Fighting a gang of tiger heads and a bear gang, all that remains is to light a fire between sharks and flying eagles. And if they really kill each other, who and thus the city, they will remain a great organization. However, the girl is still not interested in this proposal. First of all, she worries about the life and safety of her Eternals. Despite the fact that this is a great opportunity, but in this case, the girl will have to take not only children with her, and this is a big risk. In addition, her seniors have not come out of the wounded leg now, so this complicates the situation even more. The girl is not really interested in fights with gangs now, she just gathers enough food and will lead the victims out of the city. But it is worth thinking again, before the young man understands that the girl is also worried. However, if she helps, he will bring them even more food. A mischievous boy runs up, showing the girl a backpack full of food. They say that the young man is definitely not lying, not fulfilling his promises. All food is indeed a luxury in this world, but he has 100 times more of this food at his disposal than they see at the moment. Girls, officers, the question of who this young man is, where he gets weapons and food, and what games they are plotting, still does not give us. As if mirroring the girl's thoughts, he says that he understands her interest in him. Yes, but you don't have to worry about it, just answer if she wants to cooperate with him. If she does agree to work to get food, she doesn't have to go out to look for it, and she doesn't have to worry about getting hurt. According to a senior colleague, she asks what he thinks. He makes such a decision alone, quite disrespectful to the rest of the team. In fact, if the girl thinks that everything is fine, then the elder and, of course, supports her point of view and will be on her side. The girl is tormented by doubts. She runs her azure and azure eyes on the floor, trying to gather her thoughts in a pile and give an answer. Indeed, when you are offered a helping hand, it is better to fight than to hide and live in endless fear all the time. The girl's wards do not want to be a burden for her. If she is worried, no one should do it. They will help her no matter what it takes. Yet take such a risk. This is reckless, as it can cost the guys their lives, and the girl will not forgive herself for this. The youngest boy says that he is not a coward and that he will help the good young man himself if the mistress does not calm down and accept help. Telling the girls to calm down. The boy himself is not going to calm down, since his parents were killed by wild sharks and the time has come to take revenge. The young man sits down on his knees in front of the boy who is about to shed tears on his childish chubby cheeks. Wang Bing subdues him. He makes every decision he makes with good intentions and only a desire to protect them. It is worth the boy to think that if the girl was really not afraid for him, she would have already left him and gone somewhere else. The boy should have apologized quickly, because he really was wrong, and he shouldn't have said such things in such a tone. The girl, the boy, does not spare him with all his might. They give him a therapeutic slap on the back of the head so that he thinks next time. So does he really think she doesn't really care about their safety? And she can't wait to bring the sharks to justice. The reality is that the situation does not allow this. They do not match their firepower. Wang Bing said that he would be able to fight a gang of wild sharks. Well, he has neither an army nor a huge amount of weapons against them. He started a fight between bears and a gang of tigers, and it was only natural that sharks and flying eagles would be next. The girl is the only one who can help him, as her eldest is injured and cannot walk. And the rest are just kids who can't do anything, but that's not a problem. If the girl agrees, then she should hurry up. She should not stand still, but go get ready. So the young man is ready to get down to business. I turn to my wards. She says that they should also all gather, since they will move to a safer and quieter place. Wang Bing smiles, because the moment has come when he has found reliable teammates with the help of his logic. Wild sharks have left their weapons behind, among them a pistol that is quite powerful. However, too loud and young people can be caught with it. The young man offers a different weapon, and when they are combined, children and elders eat sweets that they have only seen in books before. Officers, I am surprised that there are only 2 of them and how they are going to fight sharks in such a composition. But in reality, there are 3 of them, as the girl just joined the cheating team. Giving a little compared to an army of sharks is not really worth worrying about, since Siyuan is a bad marksman. Behind, the elder remarks that the beer that the young man gave is very refreshing, so it is expensive here. He is very generous. The young man gave it away. Of course, there were quite a few of them, but due to the carelessness of the boss himself, there were 2 or even 3 times fewer of them. As it turned out, beer here is the same price as bullets. It is not for nothing that 1 can is exchanged for 3 packs of cartridges. The elder, like in Czechs, says that it is really very tasty, refreshing. Cigarettes would be even better. It will be difficult, but he still promises that next time he will bring more, even more. To satisfy the desires of those present, I turned to the girl, the officer, and he said that she also had a jar for her, so she can calm down a little bit and relax. Her eyes glow with stars, as it is a very precious drink that she has not drunk for a long time, and she is very grateful to the young man for this. The girl decided to take a little emotional break and distract herself with something relaxing. It's like a little girl asking for a jar for her. 2. Such an adult is having fun with drinks. Vanna calls a backpack of goodies in front of the children to get a glow embarrassed or stuff their bellies. They stared mesmerized at what you were doing, wondering if he could really eat it all. Sister Yun allowed them to eat some treats, but she set conditions that they could choose whether they could do one thing. Explosions were heard in the street, and it seems that the bear and the tiger gang have already begun their life and death battle. So the time has come. The young man grinned, for he had told the officer that he had not lied. And the war between bears and tigers has already begun and is in full swing. Yes, the girl trusted the young man. However, this is personal time, and she also had one question that she was going to give him. The young man has enough food to last the 3 of us. Why doesn't he escape? Why did he need to destroy all these gangs? That's because the 4th gang have done a lot of bad things over the years and the young man is sick of these atrocities. Now that he has the power, he'll take them away. Officer Miao holds fast to justice. The young man must not let her know that this is for the gold bars. And then he gives the little boy a gun for self-defense, which makes him clap his eyes in shock, wondering if he's giving him a little boy a gun. Justify this by the fact that at least there are few kids. However, as a real man in this world with this gun, he has to protect his sister and sisters. Looking at his sister in June, he wonders if he can really take this gun to protect them. They're already relaxed. She says that if her husband wants so much, he can take a weapon for self-defense if he is very careful. It is also worth recalling what brother Wang told him about security and self-defense. To which the boy just nods his head. Tomorrow the bath will personally take over his training in shooting and self-defense, so the boy will be fine. There are still doubts in the officer's mind. And the young man so easily lent a helping hand. And now he teaches you to defend yourself. He's kind of suspicious. To begin with, you need to have a good rest, and only then become suspicious. The girl announces that they will be nominated tomorrow morning. The next day, after a hearty breakfast, the three of them drove to the wild shark base. Armed and on full alert, Officer Moa knew the area very well. And so they quickly found the headquarters of the wild sharks. However, the base was heavily guarded, so they hid. They found shelter in a building close to the headquarters, from where they watched everything that happened. Take a look at the situation. They notice that you are only about a few gang members. There are pistols, the rest are nuts with sticks and knives. Those who have firearms should be identified first. This will forgive them the task. 2 guards are standing inspecting the area. When one of them retreats out of necessity, the second is immediately hit in the forehead by a bullet. Bring everyone else into it, sound the alarm, shout for everyone to hide and protect their heads from mortal wounds. With the rivers, turmoil and bullets arrive, all in a few kills, while the rest are literally a few trying to refuel. The girls rejoice with joy. It's like aiming not very accurately, but at one point, the young man grabs both of them by the heads, forcing them to duck lower. You couldn't be seen by the members of the shark gang. Their mission was over. Now it was necessary to bring problems to the flying eagles. At the sharks' headquarters, the events were just as disturbing. When their boss stepped outside, she noticed dozens of corpses covered with sheets. Open a few of them, she realized that they were her people. And, of course, she decided that it was the eagles that attacked them and she would definitely take revenge on them. Someone else also supports it, as the Bandai Bear and the Tiger Gang are now fighting, the only one who could attack them. So they will surely destroy them. And while all the subordinates were jubilant that they would definitely kill them, take revenge, and the eagles would no longer be there, the boss was more sensible and noticed that this was somewhat suspicious. Mono-flying eagles wouldn't dare to start a war with them. There must be someone else trying to provoke them. At this point, it's time to find out what happened between the bears and the tigers to get a better understanding of what's going on. The wagon train ordered her subordinates to find out if any outsiders had appeared in the city in the past few days. You need to call all the people who work in their gang, and in such a situation you need to strengthen your strength so that you are not left with nothing. Yes, she really doesn't know who's behind it, but if the gang of tigers and bears also gets hurt, then she can take over the gang of eagles. Unsuspectingly, Bonder Logs was playing mahjong at her base at the time. The boss of the gang was just beaming with happiness as another beautiful day was coming to an end. He spent time with his friends. A quiet evening in the company of gang members and interrupted by one of the wards informs that a fire has started at one of the posts. All around, a breaking silence and rivers of blood, bodies lie on all sides, filling the space around them with the blood liquid. Wang Bing steps closer, collecting weapons from the hands of one of the dead men. Now she will have pistols for self-defense. Who would have thought that a gang of flying eagle gangs of wild sharks seemed so worthless to them? It's all because young people cheated a little or they are used to doing such things. So death is nothing to them now. Chow reported to the young man that she had carried out the order, set fire to the eagles as he had ordered. Their mission was complete, and it was time to go back to get in order and prepare for the next item in the plan. By cunning, in just one night, all 4 gangs were forced to act against each other. The war between tigers and bears has escalated. Now these gangs will fight to the very end. And there is only one way out for each of them, victory or defeat. And of course, there will soon be a war between flying eagles and wild sharks, for whom the outcome of the battle will be the same. And it's all part of the young man's plan. He will have fun watching their actions, realizing how smart, amazing, talented he is. In their free time, the guys managed self-defense and shooting. Here it was necessary to concentrate, be calm and aim. The targets were empty beer cans, which the young man had successfully missed for the past few hours. Is this even normal with 10 shots and not a single hit? In this way, he only used up all the bullets. He turns at the girl's voice and sees an officer in front of him. I wonder what she's doing and worry about him waking her up with his training. Maud Planet, like a girl, just went out for a breath of fresh air, and also said that she would gladly teach the young man how to shoot a pistol. Spreading sweet molasses, the young man will certainly be glad if the girl helps him. Since the clothes on her are very revealing, he naturally does not mind. But he has nothing to thank the girl for. On the contrary, it is she who should say thank you. Because he helped her find her old self. And here it is incomprehensible, since the young man of the girl knows absolutely nothing. He doesn't understand what it means. It's the old one, he doesn't understand either. Snatching the weapon from the young man's hands, the girl aims directly at the target, hits the first time. That's the real her. The girl turned out to be quite an accurate shooter but does not escape the young man's gaze, and he literally applauds standing up. This is not strange, since the girl used to be a police officer. She still has some skills acquired. At work. After the onset of the post-apocalypse, in addition to the master, there were other companions with her, and they protected ordinary people. But as time passed, food became scarcer, and her companions quarreled and died one by one in front of her eyes. She began to question her beliefs, her principles. The world had turned into chaos and she had no one to defend. Then she found the children she guarded, and yet she lost all will to fight for justice. It's amazing that the girl was able to protect and subtract your cruelty, for bows and lack of food. It's really commendable. Yes, the leaders of these gangs used to be petty hooligans, pawns in the game. And she had already painted some of them. The young man thought that they were some important bigwigs and had definitely not been arrested. However, in an instant, they gained great power and gathered their own factions. The only thing left was the ex-policewoman to calmly look at their brutality and feel useless. All this is completely different. The girl is very strong and brave, she deserves praise, she does not need to despair. It's a good thing that she hasn't become bad after the post-apocalypse husband, so she guards her territory and protects defenseless children. That she is no less than Wang Bing. And he wholeheartedly admires all the work done by the girl. In any case, the only thing that matters is what is happening now. The officer said that she was teaching the young man how to shoot. Why not start it? In fact, it is very easy if he wants it, but here he will definitely succeed. You just need to tune in to a good result. And then everything is simple. As soon as you understand the essence, you will follow the feelings, you can become a skilled shooter. You need to aim exactly where you are going to hit and focus on your goal without being distracted by anything else. Then just hold the gaze of the muzzle and the target is at the same level, not higher, not lower. The main thing is to feel your goal. The young man realizes that he feels more than just a goal. When the girl pushes him, they say that then there is no need to wait in vain to pull the trigger. The bullet hits the target, the young man jumps for joy. This is how he finally succeeded, after hours of training. It's a very cool feeling when you hit the target, just worked hard, and then your skills definitely improve. After the young man destroys these gangs, they will definitely show the officer a beautiful world so that she can regain her former life. I can't believe her ears. She asks again if this offer to go with the young man in his life is accurate. A new promise flies out of the fat young man. As soon as they finish all the business that is in this world, they will definitely get out of here. But it's too early to talk about it. It's better to leave this important conversation for later, and for now continue to train. Burning jealousy is not a pleasant feeling, but it is the feeling that all of her is experiencing right now. Watching a young man and a former policewoman, you, too, really wanted to spend time with the young man accused him from behind in practice shooting. The war between the gang of bears was fierce. The sounds of explosions and gunfire did not stop in the city. Wang and Xiao were in charge of infiltrating the territory where the two factions were fighting and gathering information. The Tiger Gang did not give up until the end and finally defeated the Bear Gang. However, they suffered heavy losses, managing to survive only more than 10 people. On top of that, the loud noise has attracted the zombies, and now their building is surrounded by thousands of walking dead. When information about the panda's life leaked to wider circles, the gang of wild sharks moved forward in full force. The flying eagles sent a spy to the wild sharks to tell them that they were going to kill them. How dare they invade their playground? So they're going to kick their asses. They're going to show them the strength of their unity. The wild shark building has few guards left, and it's the perfect opportunity to sneak in, as there is almost no one to defend the area. One of the gang members is shot in the head. For the second, he already presents a pistol right to the back, forbids him to move. If he does not want to die, then he should cooperate with the young man and his companions. The young men's assumption turned out to be correct, and there were only 2 guards on this floor, one of whom they safely neutralized. Guards to let everyone else know that the food is on the top floor. I'm the only one guarded by machine gunners. So they're unlikely to be able to take anything. Nita and I, what did I need gold for? This one who immediately used it said that he was on the first floor in a warehouse. The man is interested, the young man shouts through us. He doesn't have to do it, it's none of his business. This one almost crying says that he won't ask unnecessary questions anymore. Passing through the territory, they did not come to the right place. The man shows that there are storage facilities at the end of the corridor and they have not entered for 100 years. He continued to persuade that his grandmother was not there, so his life was in the hands of these young people. And she won't dare deceive them. The top police officer suggests that the member of the bathhouse go there first in order to prove that the young people are really not in danger. The young man trusts the officer. She is very thorough in all the cases she undertakes, and the young man feels safe around her. As soon as the man goes forward, he gets angry. So even the wreaths around his neck swell and tell him to go forward one and prove the truth of his words. Everything is in the crosshairs, but that doesn't stop him from smiling comfortably. I think that the young people are just idiots who believed his stories. At the end of the corridor was a staircase to the upper floor, and they would not be able to see until they came closer. So it has an advantage. As soon as he can get to the stairs, he will definitely run away and notify the guys upstairs that strangers have made their way into the area. He's going to have to use all his strength to convince this guy to lock up the girls. He hadn't touched a woman in a long time. And now, fortunately, even too, he approaches the father of the corridor in this way, and looking out for the torture chambers, he calls the young man to him, saying that everything is clean, he can approach. Bing Bing waits, informs the girls that he will go first, and everything is the same. And kept his hand on the pistol moving forward. While the young man is translating, the man jumps out from behind the wall, saying that they are left behind. These losers will soon be killed by his brothers. He breaks into a run, as he realizes that they are screwed up and just can't let him escape. The situation needs to be corrected urgently. The man keeps laughing like a madman of contentment that he was able to outwit these 3. He sees how, as if forbidden, the young man will then have fun with these 2 beauties, enjoying the moment. Suddenly, out of nowhere, something very frightening appears in front of him. He stops and looks straight ahead, but he cannot understand what is happening. The young men stop, removing the safety from the gun, and also look ahead, trying to understand what is happening. Around the bend, where the gang was, they couldn't see anything, only screams for help, and seconds later they became quieter and quieter. Blood also appeared around the corner. One of the walking dead snuck onto the floor and infected the man. Well, now their problem has become much more serious. Everything would have been fine, but it was not clear how the zombies ended up here and why so many of them understood that it was better to get out of here now. They were right at the door to the shelter and needed to do something quickly. Yes, they needed the gold that was in the vault, but they also wanted to live. So, in the name of all that is holy, for the sake of safety, they had to get out of here as soon as possible, and they would still have time to take the gold. The policewoman turns around and informs her that, of course, she doesn't know what the reason is. And why gold bars are very important for young men, but they won't go away. The girl goes on to say that if these gold bars help them destroy all 4 of these bandits, they should not retreat. And they will move forward. Xiao supports, saying that now is a great time, although it is hard, but when will they have such a great opportunity again? And both girls are right, it's hard to want to, but it's a great chance. Plus, they can't be sure it won't be harder next time. In addition, he needs to keep statuses. How can he step back when there are such beautiful people around him? Brave girls who agree to go along with them. The three of them adjust their weapons again and aim directly at the heads of the walking dead. No matter how difficult it is, they will not retreat further. Zombies wanted to be devoid of any sanity, but also resolutely act forward and go forward and only forward. They succeeded. In fact, it turned out to be out of breath and a little beaten, but they could not defeat this pack of zombies and stay alive. When they open the door of the vault in front of them, they freeze as there are literally mountains of gold in front of them. This concludes the latest chapter, and we will be continuing it from here in the next episode.